Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a Bethesda news update. For those who have been patient, you finally have your news, albeit the latest it has ever been announced for Bethesda in their history of E3 showcases. It has been confirmed that Bethesda will return in 2019 to do a E3 press conference, which I found a bit surprising. I personally didn't feel that they had enough to justify showing anything off, and furthermore, E3 seemed to be going downhill and more companies are doing their own personal shows scattered throughout the year, so it's interesting to see Bethesda decide to take up one of the slots and spend all the money it takes to run an E3 conference. Anyway, we're going to be going through the article that announced this so we can get some dates, some speculation rolling, and then I'll be going into what I think each company will be showing off at the E3 showcase. So let's get started. This article will be linked in the description down below. Start speculating, refresh Walmart Canada, but most importantly, mark your calendars. And I gotta say, I'm a big fan of this Walmart Canada meme. Keep it going. E3 is coming, and on Sunday, June 9th, 5:30 Pacific time, Team Bethesda returns to Los Angeles for our 5th annual Bethesda E3 showcase. It's going to be a hell of a night. We have an in-depth look at Doom Eternal, plus much more. Okay, so first of all, I feel a little bit old. 5th annual BE3 conference. That's insane to me because it feels like just yesterday we found out about their first one when it came to Fallout 4. Also, they're highlighting that Doom Eternal and much more, which I feel means that Doom Eternal is going to be the main game on the stage for them, probably the one they close out the show with, thus leading to it being that big holiday title for them. Last but certainly not least in this blurb here is that June 9th, 5:30 Pacific time. I believe that's about an hour to an hour and a half earlier than when they normally do their press conference, which I know may not sound like a big deal, but for me, I love it because I'm usually up till like 4 a.m. working on videos, and if I can get to bed a little bit earlier on E3 for once, that would be fantastic. Anyway, we can see the official E3 invitation photo here. Naturally, it's lined up with very popular figures from Bethesda's universes, as well as it seems like fans, game developers, and so on. It has the date on it, which as always tells us to save the date, and Bethesda explains why they put "be together" in the following blurb. We want to be together with all of you this year, and with that in mind, we are planning to invite more of you, our biggest fans, to join us on our biggest night of the year. Official invitations with additional event details, including how to register for a chance to attend this year's showcase, are coming soon. Don't forget to share your thoughts using BE3 on social media. During our pre-show, we'll be highlighting fan photos using that hashtag. Can't make it to LA? We've got you covered. You can watch it live on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Mixer, and Facebook Live. And that'll wrap it up for Bethesda's E3 post, so we know when it's coming. And now let's get into what we really want to talk about, which is what is being shown off there. So I want to start off with the obvious one, which was mentioned in the article itself, Doom Eternal. Like I said, I feel this is going to be the big game. It's going to get the bulk of the attention because it's going to be that title Bethesda's pushing at the end of the year for holiday sales. So yes, more than likely, it's going to get that spotlight. And that makes sense. But everything surrounding it is vague and confusing. And once again, I feel doesn't justify a conference because there are so many question marks. And that doesn't mean that there can't be a bunch of surprise reveals, but I'm not really holding my breath. And at the end of this video, I'll explain why that's the case. But let's continue on with all these companies. So next we've got Bethesda Game Studios, who naturally will be showing off Fallout 76 DLC. It's already been confirmed that we're getting a brand new mode called Nuclear Winter in summer, so I'd imagine that it's probably going to be announced at E3, or we're going to see more about it at E3, along with maybe some bigger changes to Fallout 76 that should get the game going in the right direction when most people are looking at it, right? I think most people haven't given Fallout 76 a look since the updates have started because most have determined, and rightfully so, that the game isn't interesting to them. So when people are watching these E3 conferences, Bethesda has a chance to get them to listen about a certain product, so I would be very surprised if they didn't take up a decent chunk of the show trying to show off what's changed with 76, what they're bringing that will change in 76, and I imagine since the first season of DLC for Fallout 76 ends in May, that maybe we'll get details beforehand, and then Bethesda will show off all that's actually coming in the fall for 76 at E3. There's always that possibility. I also think there's the chance of a Starfield trailer, and the reason I say that is because Bethesda has also said it themselves. The reason they announced Starfield and ES6 alongside 76, whether it was because they thought people would hate 76 or because they genuinely believed what they did say, which was we knew people were worried if we were doing just a multiplayer game and they didn't know what was coming. So I think that still applies here in the next E3 after all of this, because people still are a bit worried about Bethesda's future. How are things going with Starfield versus Fallout 76? Will 76's launch represent that of Starfield? And I think a solid Starfield trailer would actually convince a lot of folks to buy back into Bethesda Game Studios, as a lot of trust with that company has been lost. I imagine Elder Scrolls Blades will be out by then, considering it's in a very closed off testing phase at the moment, so I feel like by the time E3 comes around, we'll already be playing that game on our phones. Next is Arkane, which is a studio that I'm probably most curious about out of everyone on this list, because I do think they could be due for a possible announcement. When you really look at their schedule, we see that Prey released in May of 2017, and then a year later, we received the big Mooncrash expansion, which I felt was better than the base game. I thought that was such a wonderful piece of downloadable content. I'd imagine a separate team was already working on a new game and not everyone was all in on Prey Mooncrash. It's likely that it could be ready for them to discuss it at this E3. However, we do know that it's not going to be Dishonored. It was confirmed many months ago that that series is sadly on ice, although it did get its due. It got a lot of story. I don't know how much more they can really expand on Dishonored without it feeling very samey to folks, so I do think it is time to move on to something new, let Dishonored rest for a decent amount of time, and try some new ideas, because Arkane makes some of the best levels and gameplay out there. It's a shame that their games really don't fly off the shelves as much as I personally feel they should, so I'm really hoping we see a new announcement from them. Next is ZeniMax Online Studios, which is like clockwork when it comes to E3. You already know they're doing the same thing they do every single other year. We have DLC coming to Elder Scrolls Online that is dropping on June 4th. It's called Elsewhere, taking it to the land of the Khajiits, and it's going to be freaking awesome, but still, point being is you can expect, like with every single other Bethesda E3 conference, they'll show off a trailer, you'll have the game director of ZeniMax Online Studios talking about the DLC and where the game's heading, and maybe teasing the next one that comes in the fall. This game is on such a great schedule. It's great for fans, but for Bethesda's E3 conference, literally removes any possible discussion because we know exactly what's going to happen. Next on the list, MachineGames. We know for a fact they're bringing out Wolfenstein Youngblood. It was announced last year, and I was surprised that that game received zero attention, but also Bethesda released zero information on it whatsoever. There was just, yeah, we're doing a Wolfenstein game. It's going to be co-op. You're going to play as BJ Blazkowicz's kids. It's not going to be Wolfenstein 3, which possibly may be announced. It would be really cool if Bethesda said, hey, we've got Youngblood coming out in a month or two, and then on top of that, Wolfenstein 3 next year. I wouldn't say that's totally out of the realm of possibility, because I view Youngblood a lot like the Old Blood, where it'll likely be this $20 standalone title. Doesn't really light the world on fire by any means, but it's solid enough on its own. It's more Wolfenstein. It adds some new gameplay elements, and we can expect to see some of those in the next Wolfenstein game, which would be 3, which Bethesda did confirm was going to happen. So don't worry, Wolfenstein Youngblood is not replacing 3. It is probably to add more story and characters and flesh them out a little bit more before moving on to 3 and focusing on BJ one more time. Next on the list is Tango Gameworks, which has been dead silent since The Evil Within 2. That is not a pun. They've only received some free updates post-launch for that game, so I'd wager they're personally working on a new IP. I am a bit unsure of that, but the reason I do think they are is because The Evil Within never really performed that well critically, sales-wise, so I feel like it's time to go back to the drawing board. What can they bring to the table here to excite gamers? They almost had a Resident Evil crisis with The Evil Within. The first one was more along the lines of survival horror. It was a lot more intense on the gameplay side of things, although the story didn't make sense at all. And then The Evil Within 2 was a clash between genres. It very much was more action focused, and you were constantly stocked on ammunition. You were never struggling to survive. It just couldn't decide what type of game it wanted to be, which highlights there's a bit of an identity crisis. I think it would be a bit underwhelming for folks if they came out and said, here we go, The Evil Within 3, because people would be like, I didn't care about the first one, I didn't care about the second one, why would I care about the third one? I think that series has tried its best. I think it did deserve a sequel to try to get some of the wrongs right, but they didn't do so, and so I feel it's time to move on. Just my personal thoughts on that. Last on my list is the unlisted game on Amazon from Bethesda. Now, this could be from any of the number of companies I have mentioned throughout this video. It's very well possible that is the case, or that Bethesda acquired a new studio and they're showing off a game from them, which would be a really big and exciting surprise. That's not out of the realm of possibility, but I imagine it could be something from Arkane. It could be something like the Fallout 3 New Vegas remaster, which a lot of us have speculated about. It could be Tango Gameworks once more. It could be Wolfenstein 3. There are so many ways that this listing could go. We're just gonna have to wait and see, because Bethesda's gone entirely off the radar with extra interviews in between showcases. Since the launch of Fallout 76, I mean, that game really changed the landscape of how that company does PR, which kind of stinks, because now it's a lot harder to cover Bethesda because they're so quiet, and in a way that's more scared than confident. And it's not the confidence that you'd hope to see from a company, as in, oh, we'll be quiet until we have something to show you, and when we do show it to you, we're gonna blow your socks off. It's more like, you guys really lit us up back in November, and we're gonna hide for a little bit until everything's calm and we've earned some love back. Ultimately though, when I look at this list I've created and some of the speculation I rounded up, my speculation is not fact, but I do get shades of BE3 2017, which, as most of us recall, was a historically bad, lackluster E3 showcase. I mean, I look at this list and I just see Doom Eternal, which is a great fit, but outside of that, I see little announcements here and there, some expansions, a mobile game maybe, you know, not that much to add on to it. I think they really, for a lack of better words, blew their load last year and announced a ton of stuff that could have caught people off guard. If they had saved Starfield as well as Elder Scrolls 6, that could be buffers for the show this year, where they don't seem to have as much to show off and talk about for fans to get excited about. Like I said, I could be wrong here, but I got this same feeling in 2017, and I remember myself, Lone, Carrick on the podcast, and we were sitting there talking and going, yeah man, but what are they going to show off, right? They got to have some surprises, and this is back when things were a little more optimistic with Bethesda, and it turned out they didn't have much to show us. So I'm not going to sit here and act like that same feeling's going to steer me wrong a second time. I want them to have a good showcase. I'm excited to see more Doom. I'm excited to see more Fallout 76. I hope that Arkane has a great reveal and that Wolfenstein Youngblood really wows us. But outside of that, man, it doesn't seem like enough to justify a showcase. So don't be too surprised if this turns out to be one of those like 40-minute press conferences from Bethesda. I'm just warning everyone now. If you get upset, you heard it here first. Anyway, those are just my thoughts on Bethesda announcing their E3 conference and what I think is going to come out from it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it in the comments down below. Do fire away, ladies and gentlemen. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.